Hello BookTube, this is Weekly Reads. Apologies in advance if this video is a bit depressing. I'm not feeling all that great right now. This has been a very rough week, not only reading but also in settling down after the move. So my reading plan for this week was to, over the course of the weekend, read several volumes of manga. And then over the course of the work week, read or reread As They Lay Dying by William Faulkner and Not a River by Selva Almada, translated by Anne McDermott. Things didn't quite go to plan, although my plan was largely accomplished. Now, as I mentioned last week, there was going to be a number of possible disruptions to my reading this week, as there had been the previous week, because obviously at that point I was moving, so for several days I did not have a chance to read. And this week there were two birthdays. My youngest niece turned 2 on Saturday. My older nephew turned 10 on Monday. And I wasn't entirely sure how my brother and sister-in-law were planning on celebrating those two birthdays, whether a joint birthday or separate. It ended up being separate birthdays, and I kind of feel sorry for my nephew. He did not have much of a birthday party. And also on Sunday, I decided to hang up the curtains and also try to put together some bookcases, which did not quite turn out how I had hoped. Although, fortunately, my brother did help with the one that I bought, and then promised he would come and help with the one that my aunt bought, which he did today. So I'm going to show you the other new bookcase, even though one of the shelves, the permanent shelf, the fixed shelf, is the wrong way around, but it's okay. At least it's put together and I can put books on it, and I guess I can always paint over that part. So, and also I did get another bookcase from my sister-in-law that she didn't want. So here we go to pan. So that's the bookcase that my sister-in-law gave me. It's very heavy, although unstable. And this is the bookcase that my aunt bought me that needed some extra work done to it, namely screws through cork or dowels. Anyway, so I did manage to read 3 volumes of manga on Saturday. Volumes 4, 5, and 6 of Choujin X by Sui Ishida. And then throughout the course of the work week, I did manage to read 6 volumes of Twin Star Exorcists by Yoshiaki Sukeno, volumes 7 through 12. And then over the course of the work week, I also bailed on As I Lay Dying by William Faulkner, read Not a River by Selva Almada, which didn't take that long because it's only 87 pages. And I started on and bailed on My Name is Read by Orhan Pamuk, translated from the Turkish by Erdag and Goknar. So I'm going to start with the fiction and then move on to the manga. So, and I guess I will start with the bales. Let's reorganize to that. So As I Lay Dying by William Faulkner. So this is the selection for Faulkner in August, which is one of a number of yearly booktube events that take place in August. I have a very mixed thought about William Faulkner. On the one hand, I like the idea of, well, I guess it's more, I like the genre of the Southern Gothic, or the idea of it. Perhaps not necessarily the execution of it. And I think that's true of Faulkner's work. That there are certain aspects of his work that are quite compelling, and there are parts of it that aren't, that are actively off-putting for me. And I'm thinking about doing a separate Faulkner video sometime next week, if I can manage it, because me and discussion videos do not quite get on. So, As I Lay Dying is a weird journey novel. It's about a poor family in Yokkonapatawpha County named Bundrins. Ance Budrin is lazy. He's a lazy sociopath who manipulates his neighbors to working for him for free. And he also treats his children very much as free labor as well. And he has worked his wife, Addie, nearly to death. And at the beginning of the novel, she is on her deathbed. She's dying. And Addie has requested that rather than being buried with her married family, the Buntrins, she would like to be married with her mate, her paternal family in Jefferson. And so this starts a horrific journey for the family from their farmstead to Jefferson that takes several days and basically is one humiliation, one tragedy after another. That sees the oldest son, Cash, who's a carpenter, in danger of losing his leg. The second oldest, Daryl, who initially is the sort of most trustworthy narrator, become increasingly insane and is ultimately institutionalized. The third son, Jewel, is just basically a jerk and probably really should just abandon the family. Dewey Dell is having a teenage pregnancy and is looking for an abortion. And the youngest son, Vardaman, is weird. And so I read this novel at least once in college. And I know for sure that I hate the ending. I just absolutely loathe the ending. And to be honest, I don't think I liked the novel much when I read it that one time. I don't quite remember if I read the novel subsequently in my mid 20s or maybe later 20s. But it had been a long time since I read the novel, and I was not feeling it. The voice of the characters just did not really come off as authentic, particularly Dewey Dell, the daughter, who really comes off more as the writer Faulkner's fantasy of a teenage girl rather than an actual teenage girl. And Vardaman is just does not work at all. Because I think part of it is that the writing is it doesn't come off as authentic. The character, there's words used that I don't think the real life Bundren family would actually use, even in their thoughts. Um, just, so I gave up on the novel. And so this is my first attempt at My Name is Red by Orhan Pamuk, translated from the Turkish by Erdag Goknar. So this is a novel about miniaturist painters in the Ottoman Empire during the reign of, I think it's Mehmet the Third or Murad, one of them, and it's weird. And I did not make it far, and it wasn't keeping my interest. I just wasn't interested, and perhaps my mental state for today was not really in the right space for the book, because there's things I had to do, and something happened while I was reading the book that has really put me in a sour mood that is also affecting this video. So, yeah. Now, yesterday I read Not a River by Selva Almada, translated from the Spanish by Annie. Yeah, I'm saying McDermott. Anyway, so Not a River it's weird. It's a very weird novella, or short novel. It's very short. So it's about three people. Two older men, Enero and El Negro, and their teenage godson, Tilo, who is the son of their deceased best friend, Eusebio. They periodically go to a remote island to fish. And at the beginning of the novel, they have caught a stingray that they then kill and ultimately are not sure what to do with. And ultimately, one of the men decides to throw the stingray back into the water. The islanders are very insular people, and one of them, Aguirre, is incredibly weird and somehow manages to rile up some of the islanders against the three main characters because of their tossing the stingray back into the water. And they basically assault the men and burn their camp. Meanwhile, two of Aguirre's nieces, who aren't living on the island, become friendly with the men and take them to a dance and ultimately help them leave the island. Although, are the girls still alive, or are they dead? And I think that's where I don't know about this story. The first part, the part that's solely focused on our main characters and their backstories, both in the present and in the past, it's quite well done. But with the shifting focus to Aguirre, his sister, and her daughters, and whether or not the daughters are actually ghosts, just makes things weird. And ultimately, the story doesn't quite end on anything. It just ends. There's no real conclusion. It just peters out. And so On the one hand, I liked it. I mean, it kept my interest. I managed to read it in almost one sitting. But on the other hand, I think it has some problems. So I think it's going to be this. So Not a River is a. I liked it. I didn't love it. It's okay. But at least I finished it. Okay, now on to the manga. So on Saturday, I read Choujin X volumes 4, 5, and 6. So Choujin X is set in an alternate Earth in the 1990s. So in this setting, some humans have superpowers, and they're called Choujin. At this point, there has an artificial way to turn mundane humans into Choujin has been developed, and two young men, Tokyo and Azuma, are assaulted and injected with this formula. Tokyo immediately becomes a Choujin. He develops vulture-like abilities. Um, Meanwhile, it takes Azuma several months longer, to develop his own powers. And Volume 4 opens with a newly Choujinified Azuma fighting Tokyo, with Tokyo ultimately coming out the victor. Azuma is enrolled into Yamato Mori's sort of training program to help him come to terms with its abilities and to not necessarily become a danger to himself and others. Azuma, much like with Tokyo and Eli, wants to become a keeper, sort of a response force for Yamato Mori to deal with newly awakened Choujin and rogue Choujin. So to help with their training, they go to an island alongside two keepers and a senior member of Yamato Mori named Sato, as well as two representatives from other Mori organizations. While they're there, they are attacked by an organization called the Tower of Mourning, who are searching for the Beast Choujin, which is Tokyo, because there's a prophecy surrounding a Beast Choujin. Ultimately, Tokyo, Eli, and Azuma are kidnapped and taken to the Tower of Mourning, where they meet with the leader of the Tower of Mourning, Zora. And she reveals her prophecy to them and why she's after Tokyo. And things proceed into a massive fight with Tokyo, Eli, and Azuma as they try to escape the Tower of Mourning, and Yamato Mori, who comes to their rescue. And ultimately, at the end of these volumes, the group splits up. Azuma and Eli remain in the city where the story is primarily set, while Tokyo drops out of school and goes to a different prefecture to further train. And he becomes a noted hero in this new city. And the volumes end with Tokyo returning. So, show you some pictures. But I enjoyed these volumes. I had a blast with them. And it really helped me with a rather annoying Saturday. Just the artwork of Choujin X is just, I love it. It is amazing. So yeah, I had a blast. Um, and then over the course of the work week, I read 6 volumes of Twin Star Exorcists by Yoshiaki Sukeno, Volume 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Now, so Twin Star Exorcists is set in contemporary Japan. It's about 2 young trainee exorcists, Rokuro and Benio. Rokuro is a washout. He was a prodigy trainee exorcist until a tragedy happened at his dorm, and Benio remains a prodigy exorcist. The duo are informed that they are the Twin Star Exorcists, exorcists with the special destiny to marry and produce a super exorcist who will end the 1,000-year war between the exorcists and a species of negative emotion born demons called Kegare. The only problem is that neither Rokuro nor Benio are particularly interested in each other, although that does change as the series progresses. And the end of Volume 9 is an absolute highlight for the slow burn of their budding relationship. So these volumes start with Rokuro and Benio trying to get to Tsuchimikado Island, the island that is ruled by exorcists and is the front line for the battle between the exorcists and the Kegare. In order to go to the island, they have to pass a ritual. During this ritual, it is revealed that Rokuro's spiritual guardian is Ebe no Seme, the founder of the Exorcist organization. And during the course of this storyline, 2 high-ranking Kegare called Basara attack. Haji Irmaru and Higano, who are after Sekio for her, who's doing this ritual, who's after her spiritual abilities. And they also hope to be able to eat the spiritual power of the Twin Stars as well as Shimon, one of the 12 guardians. This incident causes a lot of chaos both in the world of the Kegare, Magano, as well as the real world, and sees a number of high-ranking exorcists come to deal with the problem, and ultimately ends with Rokuro being able to go to the island, but Benio being forced to stay behind because her spiritual abilities seem to be gone. And then, so I really enjoyed volumes 7 through 9. They were a blast. Unfortunately, I really had an issue with volumes 10, 11, and 12, which starts the arc in which Rokuro goes to Tsuchimikado Island alongside Megura. an old friend of his who has become one of the 12 guardians, which seems to run in her family. So, what started to bug me about this arc is how Tsuchimikado Island is run. It is a monarchy led by the Tsuchimikado family, who are the hereditary heads of the Exorcist organization, and the families who produce the 12 Guardians effectively form an oligarchy. And basically, if you want any sort of success, you have to be associated with one of these families. And the whole thing seems like a regression. Rather than Rokuro progressing towards a confrontation with his former friend Yuto, who has become corrupted and desires to become a super exorcist himself, it's basically Rokuro having conflicts with Arima, with the various families of the 12 Guardians, with trying to set himself up, the whole skull thing, and then ends with a tournament arc, which I don't know necessarily if it's really appropriate, because I don't think having a tournament to determine who's going to go hunt down Yuto really makes a whole lot of sense. But part of me is also thinking I should reread these 3 volumes this week and just see, maybe I was just being a bit annoyed on Wednesday when I read these. I don't know. I will report back. But my reaction to these 3 volumes were quite disappointing. But again, I will probably come back and reread those volumes because it is leaving a sour taste in my mouth. So let me go and look at some images. Okay. And and this scene here was just amazing. That whole sequence leading up to that was just really, really great. Because I'm really enjoying the progression of Benyo and Rokuro's relationship. That's that. And then, let's see here. Yeah. Okay. So what I will be doing this coming reading week. Um, so my plan was to read My Name is Red today and over the weekend. But no. So I'm going to try Kairos by Jenny Erpenbeck, translated by Michael Hoffmann. Over the weekend, maybe, or I might wait until the work week for that and then just figure something out over the weekend. But I'm thinking about rereading these 3 volumes, as well as perhaps if I get some poetry and I might read that over the weekend, over the work week too. I don't know. I will report back next Friday with weekly reads, and hopefully this coming week will be much better. We shall see. Um, anyway, BookTube, that's all I have for now. So until I see you next week, thank you. Have a great rest of your evening and weekend, and stay safe.